Hey y'all, I have now owned this Dodge Challenger for about a month now. I've driven about 1,000 miles on it so far. And I'm going to go through 10 things that I really love about this car and 10 things that are so-so. I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but yeah, let's begin with the good things. The number one thing that I like most about this car is definitely the styling. It's got the very retro, just kind of sleek muscle car look that you really haven't seen since, or at least I haven't really seen since my old Mercedes. It was definitely not a muscle car, but just the straight lines and the styling you just can't beat. Number two, for a two-door muscle car, or even a two-door car in general, there's a lot of space. I actually had 3 people in the back not too long ago, and it was a little tight, but I think comparative to a muscle car or like a Mustang or something of another two-door type car, there's a good amount of space for passengers. And it's not ideal if you are carrying around 3 additional people or even 2 in the back all the time, but for the times that you do need to fit more than 2 people in the car, it's not that bad at all. Number 3 is definitely the trunk space. It's a pretty good size. I can fit about 2 full suitcases, if not more. I have a car cover that I carry in the back all the time. It's got a good amount of space, definitely again for kind of a joyriding muscle car. You can also fit, some stuff in the back seats as well. And most importantly, the back seats do fold down flat. So if you wanted to carry, I could probably fit a 50-inch TV, full size in its box with the seats folded down. So I don't need, a big SUV or anything like that. But if I started carrying, construction materials or, big pieces of plyboard or something like that, this would definitely not be the right car for it, obviously. The other thing, number 4, I definitely like the mileage is pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. I get about 21 overall, and that's about 50-50 of city and highway. It could be a little bit better just because this is a 2-door car, but comparative to just something of its class, it's not bad at all. If you live in an environment where gas is relatively inexpensive, it's going to be totally fine. And I live in a pretty busy town, so I'm sitting a lot in traffic, and I'm still getting about 21 overall, which is pretty good. It's definitely comparative to my last car, which was a 4-door sedan. Number 5, the most important thing that I love about this car is definitely the backup camera. The visibility is really poor in this car, especially when you're looking behind you. Having the backup camera is like an absolute necessity, and I'm sure I would be struggling a lot more with this car if I did not. So the backup camera is definitely a choice. Number 6 is the Uconnect system. I really enjoy it. I love the fact, I don't have my phone on me right now, but there's an app that you can download if you subscribe to the Uconnect network. I think it comes free for a year when you first buy your car new, but it's awesome being able to unlock and lock your doors remotely. If you're out of town and someone needs to get into your car, you can do that just by pushing a button on your phone. You can sound your horn if you can't find your car, or your alarm if you can't find your car, and you can do that from your phone, and you can always see where it's at. So when I was out of town, I left my keys at home, and I was just curious if my roommate was taking it out for a joyride, and he didn't, but it was nice being able to see it exactly where it was on a map, even though I was like 5,000 miles away from home. Number 7, the ride is super firm, which I really love. You're able to kind of feel everything on the road, so it makes you feel very connected. It kind of comes as a drawback slightly when you go over speed bumps, or you're on a bad kind of crummy street, you're definitely gonna feel it, but it really does make you feel connected to the ground. And in my sense, it makes me feel a little bit more, I guess, quote unquote, grounded. Number 8, which is super important. I live in the South. It's just a necessity to have. The AC is great. I came from a German car prior to this, and the AC was just not that great. No fault to its own, but when the temperatures reach either 100 degrees plus, or I'm trying to convert that, I think like 35 or 40 Celsius, probably a little bit less than 40. But when the temperatures reach at least that much, a good AC system is definitely a necessity. And also, being that this car is black, it's going to absorb a lot of those heat rays from the sun, so a good AC system is crucial, and this car definitely has it. Even my passengers that were sitting in the back, there's 2 little vents that are in the back there, and they blow extremely well. Number 9, you'll definitely get compliments driving this car. When I go to fill up my tank for gas, I'll occasionally get a compliment, which makes me feel great. Like I said, I had an older Mercedes 2 cars before, and I kept it in really, really good condition, and I loved just the compliments that I would get on it, and I feel like I'm kind of getting the same compliments here. And let's see, number 10, the transmission, the 8-speed transmission is actually pretty good. I came from a 6-speed, and now I'm in an 8-speed automatic, and really it shifts great. It downshifts when it needs to. If I give the car gas, there's really not too much hesitation at all. It takes off like a rocket, and even though it's only a V6, I mean, it feels really, really good. There's no hard shifts, really. I mean, maybe when it's cold in the morning, it'll shift a little bit harder, but overall, it's really, really, really good. I'm actually kind of blown away, and I don't really ever notice the 2 additional, the going from a 6-speed to an 8-speed. I don't really notice when it shifts into 7 or 8. I definitely, you'll feel it on the freeway when you try to speed up. It'll have to downshift a few times, but it's really good. And when you're in 8-speed, or you're in the 8th gear and you're going about 60 miles an hour, you're getting really 30, if not more, miles to the gallon, which is great. It's really, really nice. All right, so on to the things that I don't like / love-hate relationship with it. My biggest pet peeve is that this car is not good for traffic. And the reason why I say that is it's super comfortable to sit in. It's nice driving and all that. But the stop-and-go traffic is such a bummer, because this car really is meant to just go, at a constant speed. So the braking and then, the getting it back up to speed, it's just not that much fun to do. Plus the car is really, really heavy. So when you're braking, you feel the heaviness of the car, and when you're speeding up, you feel the heaviness of the car. It would definitely be nice, and this is something that I wish that I had, would be to have the driver's convenience package, to have an adaptive cruise control, so I could set it on cruise control, when I'm in either, light, medium traffic, or, my morning commute or something like that, just so, it'll slow down a little bit. I always feel like I'm kind of on the pedal, and the pedal is a little light too, so your foot, you can't really rest your foot on the pedal, if that makes any sense. It's just like you kind of always have to be watching what you're doing, because the car will just speed up. It just likes to go fast. Like I said, it's only the V6, but I came from a 4-cylinder German car before, and the V6 definitely likes to go in a straight line at a constant speed, and likes to also increase in speed too. Number 2, the other thing that I don't like is the doors. The doors are really, really heavy, and it's not a big complaint, but I had lighter doors, a 4-door lighter door car before, and when you open up the car doors, they're so long that they'll just, basically hit the car next to you if you're not careful. And I also live in kind of a hilly city too, so if you're opening up your doors on an incline, they're really heavy and they could swing back and hit you. So you have to be really careful when you open them, and really give them a good solid push when you're opening it up on a hill. Number 3, the car is really, really, really long. The hood is something to get used to. It really is a boat, it feels like. The most visibility problems that I have are the passenger front. So when I'm looking over there, I have no idea where the front of the car is, so I have to be really, really careful when I am pulling into a parking spot from facing in the front, because I don't know if there's something, if the curb is a little bit higher on the passenger side, I may hit it or something like that. It hasn't really come about, but if you're driving this in a city in which you either have to parallel park a lot, or you have to park in really tight parking spaces or parking garages or something like that, I would either suggest backing in and using the rear view camera, or looking at another car, just because it's a little big, it's a little much to have. But if you are, in the back roads, or, in a city where it's nice and big and spread out or something like that, and you're not really having to deal with really tight spaces or tight parallel spots or something like that, it's a great car. Unfortunately, I live in a city in which parallel parking is kind of necessary most of the time, and also in which parking lots are a little bit narrower. The spaces are a little bit more narrow. Number 4, turning is not great. And again, I kind of go back to, this car loves to go in a straight line. Excuse me. It loves to go in a straight line. You kind of feel a little bit of body roll when you move it. It's great on the freeway when you're going straight. I really do understand what people say about, muscle cars or American, big heavy cars, is they are great when they go in a straight line and going forward. And that makes sense. If you're taking this, if you live in a place where you have like mountainous terrain, and or you have a lot of tight turns and all that, it's not a great car to have, and 2 reasons. 1, because there's a little bit of body movement, but number 2 is, again, the visibility. You really can't see too much, even with the seat all the way up. You really can't see too much of what's going on over your passenger side, and you just kind of have to learn the car, like learn the length of it, if that makes sense, in order to just judge if you're rolling too tight next to, it's just kind of hard to explain. It's just, you're really, once you get into this car and you drive it, you're really not going to understand what I'm saying until you realize that, gosh, I have no idea what's 6 feet away from me next to the passenger tire. And you just kind of learn to basically hug a little bit more on the driver's side of whatever you're doing, because it's easier to see over on this side. Let's see. Number 5, again, parking, the parallel parking, it's kind of a challenge. I'm going to go back to the positive. The rear view camera is a necessity. I would really highly recommend it. It just helps you out so much. The visibility in the back, if you can kind of see like right there, this is the headrest, but there really is not a lot of visibility. I think, I forget the other YouTuber, Doug DeMoro, I think is his name. He said with the Hellcat that you could literally hide a school district behind that B pillar in the back, and he's totally right. It's the visibility is kind of poor, so I would definitely recommend, if you're looking at this car, it's a necessity to get the rear view camera, unless you're just a phenomenal driver, or you're coming from a car that's just as big. Number 6, this is more about me on the car color that I chose, but the black car is the color, it just attracts a lot of dirt, so I feel like I need to wash my car more often. That's more of a personal opinion, but I love the color. It's just, if you're driving where it's wet or something like that, you're going to notice the water spots more easily. The wheels will kick up a little bit of dirt, so it'll get the car a little bit dirtier more often, just because black shows dirt, right? All right, so number 7, again, with the kind of the color of the car and also the big wheels, I would highly recommend getting mud flaps installed. Mopar sells them. I think eBay sells them too. I think you can get a set of 4 on eBay for like $100, or a set of 2 for $100 from Mopar Direct. It's really necessary. The wheels do kick up a bunch of dirt, and you'll see the spots on the side of your car. The wheels are huge, and they'll just knock up a bunch of dirt. Number 8, this is, again, kind of a weird thing, but there's no place to like close the trunk from. You're usually grabbing onto the spoiler and or the lights to close it. It just feels really weird. I guess with all cars, you're kind of grabbing on to whatever the top of the lid is on the trunk and all that, but because the trunk opens so high that you have to like grab onto the lights in order to close it, and it just doesn't feel natural. But it's just an opinion. I don't know. I heard on older Challengers, like the lights, they usually don't line up after a while of using them, because people have always pulled on the lights, and it will kind of loosen them a little bit, so they won't, when you close the trunk, it's like the middle light is like slightly lower than the lights on the left or right, and it's kind of the same thing here, but I feel like they're a little bit more secure this go around, so maybe it's not an issue. Maybe I won't run into the lights not being equal over, you know, a period of time opening and closing the trunk. Number 9, the Bluetooth is great on this car, but it's also sketchy. It could be my phone, I don't know, but if I was playing music prior to driving this car again and it was connected to my phone, there will be a period of like 10 to 15 seconds in which there's absolute silence, and I will have forgotten that the Uconnect system was connected to my phone via Bluetooth. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, my music will start playing, and if I was listening to the last song pretty loud, it will just come on blaring loud, and it will kind of freak you out. So the Bluetooth could be a little bit better. I don't know if it's my phone that's just connected to it slowly, but it would be nice if as soon as I got into the car, it would connect immediately. But, you know, whatever. It's more of a personal issue than anything, but it's just something I've noticed. And then number 10, again, another sort of opinion. It's the V6. As I knew going into buying this car, it doesn't make as much of a meaty growl as like the V8s do, and that's just by nature, but it would have been nice to have a little bit louder of an exhaust. Now I do hear that it gets better over time, you know, things kind of get broken into and all that stuff, so like, you know, the sound of the exhaust will become a little bit more apparent, but it's pretty quiet, to be honest. I test drove a Impala not too long ago, and this thing has a little bit more of a growl, but it's not as much as I would like. So I've already kind of looked into aftermarket exhaust systems just so I could get a little bit more of that rumble. But again, that's just an opinion-based thing. So those are 10 things that I do like and 10 things that I don't like about the car so far. Again, I'm only 1,000 miles into it. My complaints are pretty slim. As far as they're just more opinions. Again, take this with a grain of salt. This is just me. This is not, you know, my hate towards the car. You know, do also note that I live in a pretty popular town with tiny roads and tiny parking lots and all that stuff. So your mileage may vary. And yeah, other than that, how I feel about the car overall, I still greatly love it. It's an awesome car, and for the price, you know, I think the feeling, the nostalgia that I get going back into another just really good-looking car is definitely worth it. So anyway, thank you very much again for watching, and if you have any other questions or suggestions or things you'd like to know about this car, just give me a shout below. Thanks.